Welcome to another episode of the Five Senses Webcast. I'm your host, Robert Zinni, and today our guest is Rocky Bleier, a Vietnam War veteran and a four-time Super Bowl champion with the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Steel Curtain in the 70s. He's here to talk about his experience in Vietnam, physical health, what it means to be a champion, and what it means to serve your country. Before I introduce Rocky, our sponsors today are Coffee Peddlers. I'm drinking that right now, so thank you to Coffee Peddlers. Great coffee. And the TBD Show, a variety show that is hosted by Thumb Butte Distillery here in Prescott, Arizona. And without further ado, good morning, Rocky. How you doing?
I'm doing fine, thank you, given this pandemic and this new normal as we are living through it. But things are fine here in Pittsburgh.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's great.
Okay. So you've had an amazing life. You were a football player. You got drafted to Vietnam, a war veteran, four-time Super Bowl champion. You've done a lot in your life, Rocky. So thank you for being here today. And my first question will be about your experience in Vietnam. So I'm in my 30s. I don't know how it would feel to be drafted to war. So how did it feel when you got drafted, and what kind of was your emotions during that time?
Well, so let's put things back in the right perspective and go back to the 60s and what was happening in the 60s at that moment of time. Of course, our involvement grew gradually in Vietnam, and then by the mid 60s, we started to send more troops over there, and so the draft was eminent reality in the lives of all of us who were coming in out of high school during that period of time. So you got your draft notification. There's the escalation of the war, but also there was a protest about the war and demonstrations all over the country. And so as the war came, it was really the first war that was broadcast into your living rooms. I mean, on television, covered daily, and with snippets and body counts and so on. And so it became how can I say? It became an image that was there constantly. And so ultimately, the protests, as I said before, unfortunately, because of the war, the soldier who was serving was identified with the war. And so it was a bad war, so you're a bad person. And so as a veteran or as an enlisted person, it was, you got criticized, you got soldiers who would return, got spat upon, you're baby killers. And so there was this whole upheaval. So the majority of veterans, when they returned, had to repress all those feelings. And so there was, honest to God, I mean, there were times or stories that I have heard that soldiers coming back from Vietnam were asked to change their uniforms in the men room and get into civilian clothes so that they wouldn't be harassed as a veteran. And so during that period of time, so when the draft came, or for me specifically when I got drafted, it was unusual, and I say unusual only because of the fact that I got drafted by the Pittsburgh Steelers, so my path was going in that direction. What did I think about the war? I knew that it existed. I just thought that if I made the football team, the organization would take care of that responsibility, meaning that they would get you in the reserve of the National Guard, as they had done other people. And so what I didn't take into consideration was the fact that there was the height of the war. We had 500,000 troops over in Vietnam at that moment in time. And so the reserve units were full. And so I kind of just fell through the cracks. And it was, we're working on it. Don't worry about it. And it's going to happen. We'll get this. So October comes, November comes. And so on December 2nd, I get my draft notification in the mail. So now you have to put this thing into perspective, if I may tell you this.
Please,
So
yeah.
I'm sitting, it's in the back of my mind. I know there's things going on, time is good. I'm running out of time. I don't know when I might be drafted. If that's the case, are we going to get into a reserve unit or not? And so one of the equipment guys hollered, "Hey, Bleier, there's a letter over here for you." Now, locker rooms are locker rooms, and there's tables where all the fan mail would be deposited. It was a place I never visited from the first day of training camp. Not when you're the 417th person picked in the draft, playing on a losing team. I mean, nobody really knows you exist during that period of time. I mean, my mother, God rest her soul, never even sent me a letter. But here, it's my first fan letter, and I open it up, and it's my draft notification.
Ouch, okay.
The amazing thing was to report the next morning to be inducted into the armed services. I thought, wow, they're supposed to give me a week, to get my stuff together. Well, it was post-dated a week before, and so it got lost in mail, whatever it is. And to some degree, so in the back of my mind, which is that I knew it was coming. Now the reality was that it's here. And the fact that I had to report the next morning just escalated, all those feelings. I didn't have time to think about it. All I could do was react to the situation. So I had to call my parents and let the Steelers know, and report to the AFI station, make sure the AFI station, which is where you got drafted, that all my stuff was in order to be shipped out. And so then all of a sudden it was boom, basic training, advanced infantry training, got your orders, mine were to go to Vietnam, like thousands of other young soldiers. And so you go home, say hi, goodbye, and you're off on that adventure at the time. So you didn't think about it. You didn't have to worry about it. It just kind of happened so quickly. And to some degree, I suppose, as I look back on it now, that, maybe that was the best way to handle it, at least for me.
Right. You kind of have to stay calm, and that's interesting with that draft lottery scenario, because you never know when you'll get picked for the NFL. But then a random day, like you said, could come around and you're shipped off to Vietnam.
That's right. And so that was before, and so that was before the lottery. The lottery had come in shortly thereafter, and for our young citizens. And so my brother got caught in the lottery, and he got a high lottery number, and so that he didn't have to serve. But anyway, so I went off to Vietnam.
Okay. So you went to Vietnam, and you are a person who had experienced war. And I don't feel like a lot of people these days can even fathom what that means to be a person who experienced war. So could you describe your experience in Vietnam and how it shaped your perspective in life? And if there's any moment that kind of clicked for you or anything, please share.
Yeah. So, the interesting thing is that all of a sudden you're in a situation. You're in a situation where you're just responding. You're responding to all the things that are around you. You're responding to flying over there, to getting to your unit, on not knowing what was taking place. There are good guys and there are bad guys, and so you're fighting the bad guys, whatever the bad guys are. And so unlike maybe World War II, where there was a definitive line of what was taking place and what our position was in that war, Vietnam was really kind of a gray area. And so, but you're there. You're there because you're serving your country. You're there because it's a responsibility. You're there because you get drafted. And so you try to find, I think, a reason why you're there. And I think that becomes a very important thing, whatever that reason is, from a patriotic point of view to a survival point of view, to a reason that if you are going to get injured and or get killed, you got to find something that makes it worthwhile, I guess. As simple as that whatever that reason is, you have to find it. Otherwise, I think you get lost and you get tangled and you get involved in of trying to rationalize, justify, take drugs, alcohol, whatever it might be to, get you out of that sense. And for me specifically, and it doesn't mean much, but for me, we came across, and you would find these little random, it's not even a village, but it would be a hut here and a hut there, going together. It'd be a mama san, and she'd have a couple baby sans, and and I can remember once being there, and we stopped quickly. You had to check out the area, but there was a fire that was taking place, and in it was a pot, and in the pot was a buffalo hoof that was being boiled in water. And I thought, wow, that must be their meal for that day or evening or whatever it is. And you just thought, well, maybe if I'm being here could help them take one step forward rather than two steps back, maybe it's worthwhile for us to be here. Simple as it may be, naive as it may be, but for me it became a reason, okay, a reason for putting my life on the line, if that be the case. So that was my understanding. Plus, the other thing too is that you learn a lot about people, just personalities, and people are people, no matter what they are or what their rank is, whether they're private with you or they're first sergeant, people react under pressure, different situations. So that was a kind of a learning experience, that we're all in this together, and we're all trying to get out of this together. And so that whole sense of teamwork and having your back became reinforced, much like playing sports throughout that period of time in my life. And so I had that sense of a teamwork, of companionship, of being in the same situation, that we've had that same experience. I always tell people, I said, people go, no matter what level you are, if you've played sports, you've been in a locker room. And a locker room's a locker room. You don't have to be, a locker room's a locker room. You don't have to be on a professional level. You can be on the junior high level, and it's just that kind of experience. And so it was kind of the same in the military.
Right. Yeah. That camaraderie, like we are crew, not passengers, because at any moment, somebody could ambush you. And I was in Vietnam a couple years ago, and I did some of the tours in Chichu, the Chichu caves, or the tunnels. Sorry if I can't remember that.
That's right.
And that was the first time when I realized, whoa, like this was like a brutal war with guerrilla warfare, and like I kind of like cringed when I walked through their torture weapons and booby traps, and just know like what you all had to deal with, because it wasn't really like a traditional war that you had to fight. And so could you explain how the Viet Cong would come to you, or how to fight guerrilla warfare? What was the strategy?
Yeah, we worked, I'll tell you my experience was pretty much the experience around the country. So we worked in areas of operation. Okay, so our battalion, the battalion that I was attached to, worked in this area called HEP Duck. And so basically what it was, made up of 5 different companies, 4 leg companies or infantry groups. And so in that area of operation, there were LZs, or landing zones, on top of a mountain. And so let's just say you would be on one landing zone over here, and then another company would be on a landing zone over here. So this is where the artillery was, that covers this whole area that we were under, and 2 companies would be in the field. So the company would be up doing perimeter protection for the artillery in the landing zone, and then for 10 days or 2 weeks, and then you go down in the field for that period of time, then you go up on the other hill, and then you'd go down in the field. And so it would be a rotation of that nature. And so when you're in the field, when you're on the landing zone, every day one of the platoons would take a sweep off the landing zone. You have to walk down this hillside, and then ultimately you have to walk back up this hillside. And you would have an area in which you were, the intelligence came down, there was movement here or whatever it might be. And so we would cover that and then go back up for the evening. Given that, the Viet Cong would know what your position was. I mean, if you're up on top of the hill, you're better off in the field because you're moving all the time. And it wasn't as if there was front lines like we had in World War II or any of the wars that we had. That wasn't defined. And so strategic information coming down from headquarters was very important. What information they got, about movement, what was taking place, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you felt better in the field. And when you're in the field, you would, let's just say we'd get up in the morning and then we had a map in which we had to go. So we'd get someplace by noon and we'd set up a day camp at noon. And then we'd take sweeps away from that day camp. And then after a couple hours there, we'd pack up and then we'd move to the night camp. So we're always on a move of one nature or another. And it wasn't as if they were sophisticated in having, technology like we have today. And so your movement was, it accidentally would run into one another, basically. And so that's what we worked out of, and that's what we did in the field. So at times when you're up on the landing zone, so they would try to approach your perimeter. They would try to get close enough, and they would have grenade launchers that they would try to pop in up over the top and or break through barbed wire that we had around the top strike. And sometimes they had been successful in the past, not during my experience, but it had broken through, and then there was a mass firefight that took place during that period of time. So like everything else, and every story that you've heard about being in the military is hurry up and wait, so you'd wait, you get bored, you'd be moving here and you set up a camp again here. And then the intensity of a firefight was, in a matter of minutes could take place. And then it was just, for how long it could be, 10 minutes, 20 minutes, couple shots here, but all of a sudden your adrenaline's pumping and you're trying to assess the situation of what had taken place, listening to what needed to be done. And then it was dispersed. And then they would leave, and we would go on our business.
Wow. Damn, that's crazy to think that in a matter of seconds, the whole troop could get wiped out, or you could wipe somebody else out. And you always have to be on your toes, but you also are bored, like you said, most of the time. So in that experience, you were wounded, and correct me if I'm wrong, but doctor said you probably couldn't play football again. And that was kind of some adversity you had to deal with after the war. And for me, I'm huge on promoting a healthy lifestyle and know what it means to be a survivor. And so I admire the fact that you were motivated enough to get your health back to join the Steelers again. So what was your motivation behind you wanting to get healthy again, get strong again, and continue your football career?
That's right. So let me just go back to help reiterate, that the of getting hit. Okay. So we were basically, so a sister company had been in the field. We were up in the landing zone. Sister company had been hit. There was a movement that was taking place. I didn't find this out until much later. As a matter of fact, after I returned, and when we started to write the book Fighting Back. But anyway, that there was a big effort by the North Vietnamese to come down into the Hep Duc Valley to liberate, quote, in their terms, that valley. So there was a regiment that was pushing down. So we were in a pinching perspective with the Marines, pushing them down. We were retaining wall down here, or so that's what they said. Anyway, so I'm up on LZ Siberia with my company, and Delta Company had been in the field and they've been hit And so we flew out, got to them to help get them out of that hot spot in their firefight. And we got there late at night, so there was ceasefire, and our responsibility was to get them out of that position. And we were to pull front and rear security, carry what bodies that were left behind out with us, which was trying to get everybody out. On the way out, we ran into a quick firefight with a machine gun nest. Word was to leave the bodies, and we're coming back and to pick them up. Now, 2 days later, that was our mission, to pick up those bodies, to get helicopters in and get them out of there. So we're just walking on an open rice paddy. So we're coming out of this wooded area, and I was eighth in line. I was carrying a grenade launcher, and our point man, as we're on the open rice paddy, saw movement across the berm, and in his excitement hollered, "Goop, goop." Shots broke the stillness. The enemy started to run. He started to chase him, pulling everybody out in the middle of the rice paddy when the machine gun started to level the area. Boom. And so now we're in a firefight, and that's when I get hit the first time. I got a grenade. My responsibility was to get firepower onto that machine gun nest, which was maybe 150, 200 meters away. And so after I got hit the first time, then this large, we were shooting grenades onto it. Got four guys who were pinned down, got out of there. Anyway, so now there was, and here's my point. There was a lull in the action, and I was to the far left of where we were in this open rice paddy. All the other action was taken over to my far right, and all I could think of was, what if the enemies, came down this trail and started to flank us on my side?
Okay.
Well, as a grenadier, all I had was a grenade launcher. It was one shot, a grenade launcher, but I had a large shotgun shell I could use as a splatter. And so I breached that, and I'm thinking to myself, if somebody comes around that corner, I got one shot. And I hope that they are as scared as I am. Because when I shoot this, hopefully they run the opposite way, because I'm going to drag my butt as fast as I can in the opposite direction. So, and I tell you that in the sense that there's no heroic message there. It's like a message of survival. It was saying, okay, fine. They're human beings like me. I'm scared. Okay. I think they are too, of knowing what's coming in. And so hopefully it'll scare them. It didn't happen, but I wanted to put that in perspective just as a thought process, and so they're human beings, we're human beings. Oh my goodness gracious, what's going to take place here? And not that you're a big hero, you just do what you need to do and you react, to that situation at that time. So I forgot the question you.
It's about after getting wounded. What motivated you to get your health back? But okay, if it's survival, it's great, Rocky.
No. I think this becomes very important. So my motivation or my drive was basically to come back and play football. Okay, and I think that what we need as human beings is that we need to have a goal. We need to have an end result. To push ourselves through this. So in the prognosis, as you had made mention, the fact was, because of the damage that had been done to my right foot specifically, is that they did not think that I would have the strength or the flexibility to come back and play this game. That was a perception at that period of time. But interesting, playing sports is that you always have injuries. I mean, you have an injury of some. If you're playing in the backyard, you have an injury. You get sprains. You stub your finger, or it hurts, or you get a broken finger, or God forbid you pull a muscle and you get this, and so there's kind of a lesson over a period of time that you learn. That lesson is that well, in time it heals. It hurts and then it heals. And you go through a little rehab, and then you're back in the yard playing again. That could be a week, could be 2 weeks, could be a month, could be 2 days. So, and usually that's what takes place. And then you're back playing whatever it might be, and you forget the century. So in my case, specifically, my goal was to go back and play. I didn't lose a leg. I didn't lose a limb. I didn't, injured, yes, but when you play sports, that happens. And so you have a learned process that you kind of go through. And so that became my driving force. So, but it took a period of time, obviously, as it has, to go through the rehab, but also the healing process. And you get to a point where you just got to start going through it. You just got to go out and start walking and running, or get your body back in shape. And so I did that. I lost when I weighed probably 165 pounds after this episode, from 205 pounds, and when I played my rookie year. And then and I have to start putting weight back on. You have to start putting this on. You start lifting again, and you go through that process. So that process was part of the healing process as well, because it became a focus of what you had to do every day of one nature or another to be able to get back there. Then, fortunately, in my case, I think, and I say this in all honesty, that the ownership of the Pittsburgh Steelers, with the Rooney family, were very good and very kind, and they gave me an opportunity. And I came back that first year, and they invited me back to training camp, and it just took its toll, and it didn't, and it just beat me up. And so, but they put me on injured reserve. I had another operation, and so I came back the following year, and I made the taxi squad, or the developmental squad. So they bought me 2 years. If you think about it, 2 years to heal, 2 years to get bigger, 2 years to get stronger, and then to come back and play. So you have to do something with that period of time. So if your drive is to come back and play, so they provided that opportunity for me. And so I can always never thank them enough because of that. But you have to do something with that. So that became my driving point.
Nice. And, the Rudies have been just like the example of excellence when it comes to sports owners and the whole history of sports in America. So that's really awesome that they gave you a platform for you to facilitate your rehab ability. Now, I want to go back to the war story about you with the grenade launcher, because I don't think I got the end of that story. And I want to know, did you have to blow them up, or is that where you got shot? Like, sorry.
No, okay, no, that's all right. Yeah, so I get confused after all. No. So what had taken place was we were in the race paddock, okay, and so all of a sudden, machine guns started to level the area. We jumped into the race paddy in front of me, crawled on my hands and knees, okay, to the end of the race paddy. Below us was another race paddy out in the open. I was behind some bushes. Okay, fine. And 4 guys were pinned down. So my responsibility, was to get some firepower, as I'd made mention on that machine gun nest. So I rolled over my side and I breached my grenade, and that's when I got hit the first time.
Ooh, all right.
Okay, that's when I got hit the first time in my left thigh, and so I discharged that round, put a tourniquet on the wound, smart enough to drop back behind some more protection than before, and then we got enough firepower on the position, get the 4 guys who were pinned down to get out of there. So the medic came over, and he and we crawled back to our commanding officer, who was still in the wooded area. And so about 20 minutes later, the rest of the platoon came crawling back in, and we set up another defensive position undercover as I said, in this wooded area. They probed our perimeter. The Vietnamese probed our perimeter, and they got close enough. They got close enough. One grenade, somebody hollered grenade, and you just dive forward. That one hit right where I was sitting, okay, and blew up. Didn't hit me at all. The second one came in, hit my commanding officer on the middle of the back, and it bounced off him and rolled between my feet. And before I could jump out of the way, it blew up, and I was standing on top of it. So that's where I get hit the second time. Then
Okay.
we're in a firefight that afternoon. I mean, just boom, boom, boom. There was some intensity that took place coming from the front. And all of a sudden, there was a lull. I mean, all of a sudden, boom, it just stopped. And the only thing that we could assess thereafter as they retreated was that we had either injured or killed their commanding officer at the time. And so they just retreated at the time. And a sister platoon fought its way down and dragged us out of there. So now they're taking us back to a secured area. And through the night, it was like through the night, they dragged us and carried us. And we finally got back to a clearing. Helicopters then came in and extracted us to an aid station. So that was what took place at that time.
Okay. So first you get shot, then you get blown up, and then you got more firefights to go through. Damn, Rocky, that's intense. But I'm glad you're alive because you're able to bounce back and be an inspiration to everybody. And then, so my next series of questions will be about your time with the Steelers. So with your experience with Vietnam and that adversity you had to go through, listen, everybody knows that the Steelers probably had the best dynasty of maybe close to the Yankees in sports history. Maybe the Canadians, I'm not sure. But football-wise, definitely better than Patriots. So with just coming back from Vietnam and then really the Steelers sustained excellence and greatness for a period of like 6 to 8 years after that. So how did that experience help you? But also, how did you guys sustain that level of excellence throughout the years? Like, how was that being part of a winning champion domination?
That's right. I look back at that from that experience from my point of view, just when, and I pinch myself in times of saying how lucky to be at that time, with the team. So the Steelers, from a historical point of view, was the losingest team in their first 40 years of history. I mean, of NFL history. They lost more games than anybody else. So they were really like the Buffalo Bills. No, they were really
oh, dude, it hurts. Like the Buffalo Bills. We're coming.
It was so anyway, then all of a sudden they went outside of the organization. So Mr. Rooney, the chief, who ran the club all those years, was really a wonderful man, and not necessarily a football. He was kind of a promoter, kind of a guy, and he was very loyal to his friends. And so a lot of coaches just were his friends. And so, were they good coaches or not good coaches? But there were people that coached, and so he had a team. When his son Dan Rooney who took over, then they went outside the organization and got Chuck Noll. Okay, so Chuck really was a catalyst, to my point of view, of being able to change the mental outlook, how you approach this game, and what the Steelers are all about, and about his ability to find the right players. And so there's a lot of reasons why what took place, but all of a sudden, 1969, he comes in, he wins one game, the first game of the season, and then loses 13 games thereafter. So they're 1-13. It's like the same old Steelers. Okay, Joe Green is the number one draft choice in 1969, and then 1970, Bradshaw comes in, Mel Blount comes in, names that have become household names, but weren't at that time. And then the 74 season, which was a huge draft season for us, but it was not necessarily going to start off as a great season. There was a player strike during that period of time. In our case, 14 new guys made the team, which is a lot of rookies on that. Out of those 14 guys, 5 of them are now all in the Hall of Fame. And so it was a monumental input, and then philosophy-wise, and then building on that. And so in getting the most out of the players and changing defenses and offenses and so on and so on and so on, and just to be a part of that, being there at the right time, you got a chance or an opportunity. Now, Franco Harris came in 1972, and we were winning by 1972. We, first time in the history, got into the playoffs, and we had the game against the Oakland Raiders at that time that boiled down to one play that changes the course and direction, deflected pass within the last 28 seconds. Franco Harris picks it up, scoops 50-some yards down the sideline, scores. Now, he lives off that play for the next 45 years. But anyway, so that's
okay.
called the Immaculate Reception. It's a #1 play in the history of the NFL over 100 years. And so it all of a sudden, it was kind of a sense, though things changed in a kind of a belief system. And so then we come in 73, we get to the playoffs again, and then in 74 we got to go over the beginning part of the season. Now, in 74 we had the player strike, and I have to tell people this. We had the player strike. Bradshaw was sitting on the bench. Joe Gilliam was the starting quarterback. Franco was not playing; he was hurt, and so we limped through the first 5 games. I think we were 3-1-1, and all of a sudden things changed. And Bradshaw came back in as a starter. Franco got healthy. I got a chance to break into the starting backfield about that time in the 5th game of the season. And so all of a sudden things started to move forward, and we go to the playoffs, and we win the division, and then go to the playoffs and win the playoffs, and we go to the Super Bowl for the first time. And then it became the start of that dynasty. And so over that period of time of 6 years of winning 4 Super Bowls, there are 28 players that have 4 Super Bowl rings. So you can see that the core, was there. There was the stability over that period of time. And so it was very helpful. We had experience, we had veterans, we'd been there before, we knew what it took to win. And if we lost, it wasn't that traumatic. And because it's usually we beat ourselves in that case. So that belief system, was very important, and it got us through that period of time to win those 4 Super Bowls.
Nice, yeah. And I'm always a firm believer when you get a group of people that believe in the same kind of dream or goal, you can really be unstoppable, but it has to be like a full team effort. Even probably from the equipment guy to the sports announcer to the head coach to you. So 2 questions as a player, though. One is, what was your favorite touchdown ever scored, if you can think of one?
Okay, fine.
And what does it feel like to win your first championship to compare to your 4th championship? Because as a Bills fan, I know what it feels like to lose a first championship and then see 2nd, 3rd, and 4th.
Right. So just a little aside there, and for Bill fans, and for you, the interesting thing in our society is that it all rides on whether you win. Mm-hmm. Okay. Not that you got there, not that it took what it took for you to get there. Only if you win does it make a difference. Yeah. To go to 4 Super Bowls takes a lot of effort.
Right.
To win, things happen, in a game and so on. But just to be able to get there. And so I always, the sense of the Bills is that they're not losers. They were never losers. They had opportunities, but they had a great team and organization, to get them there. And so, people who think about the Bills being losers is, that's a ridiculous thing. But winning does help, and it does put you in that position. And we would not, and in all honesty, we would not be talking here if we didn't win 4 Super Bowls. Okay, I mean, really, in all honesty, I mean, given the fact that you're part of that organization, put you into a different situation, give you recognition for your contribution. Okay, so Veterans Day is coming in, and I want to thank all the veterans that are listening to this program for your commitment and support of this country, and I salute you in so doing. For me, that became another part of my life, but all tied into of winning 4 Super Bowls. If we would have lost 4 Super Bowls, we would have been like, who? Look, so I'm very appreciative of all that effort that had taken place to be able to get us to where we were today.
Okay, sweet. So, excellent. So, sorry. So what was your favorite touchdown that you ever scored?
Oh, my favorite touchdown. Okay,
Yeah.
So my favorite touchdown. So here's my favorite touchdown. In all honesty, was the last touchdown, my last touchdown that I'd ever scored against Kansas City Chiefs, the year I retired. It was the last game at Three Rivers Stadium for me. It wasn't the last game of the season. We had 1 game left thereafter out in San Diego. But it was Rocky Bleier Day, farewell to Rocky Bleier. And so we're the defending Super Bowl champions. And that year, 1980, we're not going anywhere. We're a 500 team at best going into this game against the Kansas City Chiefs. So it was, as I said, Rocky Bleier Day. And here's, but I think this is that all of us who play sports, whatever it is, we all have these little Walter Mitty dreams in our mind. We grow up, playing basketball by ourselves outside. And in our minds, we're playing the championship game, and you're in the corner, the clock's ticking down. Player gets the ball, he's up. Let's do it again. Okay, he's up.
Right,
He wins the game. Yes, or in our mind we do that. We're playing, pickup games at baseball, and all of a sudden you're there, and all of a sudden it's the bottom of the 9th World Series. You're going to make the hit. Anyway.
Oh, I know that. Yeah, I did that.
Yes, I think we all did that. So in this game, it was one of those games in December, cold up here in Pittsburgh, we're not going anyplace. We're 500, even though we're defending champions, and we're introduced onto the field. As we're introduced onto the field, years of people standing and screaming and yelling and waving terrible towels, and we're number 1, and we're going to the Super Bowl. And Steelers, all boiled down to a very, let's get out of here, okay? It's cold. You guys aren't going, let's get this game over with kind of an attitude. So we start the game. We start the game, it was one of those, it was a pillow fight. And I'm telling you that. We're very gracious hosts. So it's much like Kansas City, you're coming. Why don't you win this game? No, Kansas City said, no, it's your home field. Why don't you guys win this game? No, really, in all honesty, why don't you guys? So we scored, they scored, we scored, they scored. And so they got the lead, and it's in the 4th quarter. And we get the ball back. They had just scored. Now we got the ball on our 20-yard line. We got 80 yards to go. If the ball was on the 8-yard line, I don't know whether we could have scored. I mean, that's the way we were playing it.
Okay.
And so Bradshaw comes into the huddle, We got maybe 3.5 minutes left on the clock or so. He comes in the huddle for whatever reason. All of a sudden, come on, guys, let's do something. I mean, we're a better team than this, and so on. And it was almost, in my mind, it was like the charge of the Light Brigade. Every war picture I saw, with the chief war horse leading the way, with a flag and with a sword in one hand and leading into the. All of a sudden, I got that image and that feeling of here we were, because things started to work. Franco picks up 4 yards. I pick up 2 yards. We pick up a first down. We got a screen pass to Stallworth, and he picks up some. We get Kelvin Sweeney, who's a wide receiver for us at the time, takes it down to the 45-yard line, and then Benny Cunningham, our tight end, takes it up over the 40. Oh, now all of a sudden, as we're moving the ball, I could hear pockets of fans going, offense. It didn't collate yet. It just, but these little pockets of trying to get some enthusiasm. And then there was a 2-minute timeout. So we come back. And at that time, Bradshaw decides to give me the ball 6 times in a row. Now, I tell you that only because of the fact he doesn't give me the ball 6 times in a game. But my last game, at my age at that time, he decides to give me the ball 6 times in a row.
Oh,
and
that's
the offensive line does a wonderful job, and we started picking up yards. We get 4 here, we get 3 here, we get a first down here, and then all of a sudden, as we're running the ball, those little pockets of offense, coalesce into Rocky. So we're moving the ball down, and we take it down all by myself down to the 11-yard line. We've got 28 seconds left on the clock. Bradshaw calls a play, and it's a trap off to the left side. All of a sudden, the ball is snapped, and the clock starts ticking down. 28, 27, 26. Right guard pulls. I'm underneath. And all of a sudden, it is the largest hole I've seen in my entire career playing. They open this thing. I turn up inside. Middle linebacker hits me. Clock's ticking down. 20, 19. I keep my feet balance. I'm running towards the goal line. I'm about 2 yards out from the goal line. Defensive back's coming up to make that tackle. I leave my feet. Clock's ticking down. 18, 17, 16. We collide midair. Come down. The ball crosses the goal line.
Dang.
I win. And I went home, and that was it. It was the end of there were no Super Bowls, no nothing thereafter. But for me, that was my favorite.
Wow. Well, that's just awesome farewell for your career. I mean, the crowd, it's like just a movie. The crowd cheering for you, and then you have that epic goal line.
That's right.
But you get the ball in. That's great, Rocky. Damn.
Yeah, nobody remembers it except for me. So
those moments in life are only for you, right?
That's right. You're right.
So we're running out of time, but I do have some rapid fire questions if you don't mind before we end it. Your mustache is on point. I should support that mustache throughout the years. Yeah.
Okay, fine. So let's just go back. It's the '60s. It's my generation. It's a Vietnam veteran guy. Coming back. So I had shaved it. Only to the disgruntlement of my family. And they go, no, put it back on. You're getting weird. You don't look like you, with that. So, it's one of those things where I go, oh, okay. So I'm an old guy, and I got it because it's that era and it's still there. And my family won't let me shave it.
Okay, I like that. Right. My mom's always asking me to shave my beard or whatnot. I'm like, hey, I'm a grown man, Mom. Like, I love you. I'm trying to go for the samurai look right now. But that's awesome.
Well, I'm going to share this quickly with you, Robert, is that I did that once with my mother. Yeah. And so I shaved it. I only shaved half of it, like half of it.
Okay.
And so I spent the day with her, honest to God. And she didn't say anything about it until I would leave it. And I said, Ma, look at me. She said, what? What's wrong with you? And then all of a sudden she goes, oh, you shaved half your mustache. See, and I'm figuring, oh, she didn't even notice.
They want to notice, yeah.
That's all right.
Gotta love our moms. All right. Steelers are an amazing, great franchise. So out of the Tournament of Champions, you got Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin. Who would win in a tournament of Steelers greatness? Okay, so here's the final. The answer to that. Obviously, I'm going to say Chuck Noll. Okay, but it depends. But it depends on what era you would play in. Okay, true. So you can't take the '70s team and put them in this era size. Lambert was 215 pounds. As a middle linebacker, which would be fine. So from size, speed-wise, and so on.
But even that, I would match up that, the 70s team, the 78 team, the 76, 77 team, any of those teams against any one of their best. And I think we'd kick their butt.
Mm-hmm. Well, the game has changed throughout the years.
Yeah,
Watch highlights where you're playing, you're getting like clotheslined, and like there's so much helmet-to-helmet activity. So, I mean, times have to change. So
that's right. I know.
Okay. So before I ask you the final question to send you off, as you can tell, I'm a passionate Bills fan coming from Buffalo. You kind of threw some jabs, but also talked some really greatness, because I always feel like in the last 30 years, the media has conditioned us Bills fans to think that we've been losers because we've had the drought, but we're coming for you guys. So the Bills and Steelers are top 5 teams in the AFC right now. They play in December. I love making bets, and so if you're down, would you like to bet on that game? And what should we?
Of course,
bet?
Okay, we'll. Awesome. Give it. Yes, we'll bet on that game. And I'll even be gracious enough to give you the spread.
Okay,
I'll be gracious, not even head up. Because I know. The Bills have to overcome a lot to be able to win that game. But anyway,
Oh, ouch. Okay, we'll see.
Oh, that's it. Okay, fine. So what's the bet?
Okay. Well, I was thinking, because I had to do that variety show too. Maybe next time we connect, I'll wear your jersey. You can wear either a Bills jersey, or I'll make a special jersey for you with Larry. And then maybe like $50 to a charity.
Okay, we can do that. We're on.
Sweet deal. I guess, can we high five through the screen?
Where is it? Where I got to see where.
Just go to your.
Where am I here? Come on, right. There you go. There we go.
Cool. Yeah, there.
There you go.
Because we never know.
Put it there.
Yeah, there. All right, cool. So my last question, Rocky, and again, thank you for being a guest. I really enjoyed learning about your experience in Vietnam, and I just love talking about sports, and so it's great to hear from a legend. So this show is dedicated to our veterans out there, and thank you for everybody who served in the history of America to protect our freedoms and allow us to have this awesome democracy. Really appreciate you, Rocky. What does it mean to be a veteran, and do you have a message for anyone listening out there?
Well, I think I think all veterans out there, can hold their head up high, and said that I served our country. And I think it's all about service. It's about giving of who you are to your country. And so there's a part of us that need to be able to do that in some fashion or manner. And I know that things have changed within how we serve this country, and it's all volunteer since 1973, and all volunteer military that we have. And for those who've taken that responsibility of serving the country, I do salute you, and for your patriotism, and for your efforts, and for being involved of making this country what it is today. So I thank you for that. But I also want to tell the American people out there, and I think that becomes very important. It's easy to say to a member of the service, thank you for serving, but what you really have to do is to maybe give back yourself in some form or nature of being able to serve your community, because that's what they do in the military. And to some degree, there is a lot of apathy about our military from the American citizens, because they are not involved. Less than 1% of our population serves our country. For the remaining 99% of us to have those freedoms that we have, and do the things that are necessary to maintain them. And so it's an awesome task and responsibility. And so we should hold them in great esteem for their commitment to our country.
Exactly. Well, Rocky, thank you very much to be on the show. Best of luck to you. I'm sure our paths will cross, and
that's right. They will. They will.
And after the trash talking from me in the next month about the Bills, because we got Bills Mafia on our side. So, but anyways, thank you again. And
okay,
for everybody,
we'll see you after the Bills game.
Yeah, I'll see you at the Bills games. And so signing off, this is Robert Zinni from Five Senses Webcast. For more information, check us out at 5enses.mag.com. Like us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And don't forget our sponsors, Coffee Peddlers, delicious coffee, and the TBD Show, a new variety show hosted by Thumbview Distiller. And find out more information at www.thetbdshow.com.